Even as someone who eventually became a certified SolidWorks expert, I made a lot of mistakes along the way. Some wasted hours, others broke assemblies in ways I couldn't explain, and a few nearly derailed projects altogether. The thing is, almost all of them were preventable if I'd known what I was doing wrong. When I look back, those mistakes fall into a few big themes. In this video, I want to share those themes with you, tell you what went wrong for me, and show you the lessons that I learned so you can avoid the same headaches and become a stronger designer faster. Welcome to Fully Defined. My name's Chris. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first theme is not knowing the software. When I was starting out, my approach to SolidWorks was very much just enough. I'd learn how to get through a task once, then move on, without really understanding what was happening behind the scenes. Common for a lot of students going through projects, you just need to do enough to pass the subject or pass that project. Understandable. But it led to some embarrassing and frustrating mistakes, things that are probably avoidable. First one, the V key. As a student, I can't tell you how many times I accidentally hit the V key on the keyboard and suddenly I couldn't select anything properly. I didn't know about the selection filter, so I assumed SolidWorks was broken. I could see the little icon. I had no idea how to get rid of it. My solution, dumb, but over and over again, it was save my work and restart the software. Hours lost just because I couldn't stop or didn't stop to figure out what was happening. The next one, ignoring tools. I also ignored features that I didn't understand. Take the indent tool. It sat on my toolbar for years and I never touched it. I thought, I've got everything I need already, why bother? But once I finally learned it, I realized how many hours I'd wasted brute forcing designs that could have been solved in minutes. Another big one was never using selection contours. I've always believed that trimming sketches down to a single contour was best practice. So I trimmed sketches down to the bare minimum every time. It worked, but it made my sketching workflow take longer than I would otherwise need. And for a long time, I never utilized the power of shared sketches between features. These mistakes taught me the same thing. If something feels harder than it should, it probably is. SolidWorks is full of tools designed to make your life easier, but only if you take the time to learn them. Don't stop at just enough. Explore, test, and keep building a deeper understanding of the software. The time you invest in learning always pays itself back many times over. All right, the next theme is all about poor organization. So another area that caused me endless frustration was organization, or more accurately, the lack of it. Now, there's a few elements to this. The first was file management. Early in my career, didn't really follow any conventions. I'd never been trained. They don't train you at university about file conventions for CAD data. Files would end up in semi-random folders. Names were inconsistent, and I rarely thought about version control. It worked fine until it didn't, until something broke. And then I'd spend hours chasing missing references, trying to piece assemblies back together. It never killed a whole project, but losing parts of a design set me back again and again. Over time, I learned that every workplace had its own systems. Each time I moved to a new company, I'd take the best parts of those systems with me, refine them, and then make them my own. Get into a better practice organizing my files. It's not just the file organization that's important on the outside, also inside the file in your feature trees. As a student and early professional, my feature trees were just as messy. I never renamed sketches or features. I never used folders, and I never thought about someone else reading the model. Editing was a bit of chaos. Errors stacked up, rebuilds dragged, and communicating design intent through the model was almost impossible. The turning point came when I had to share work with others. That's when I realized a well-organized feature tree isn't just for you. It's a way of communicating your design logic to anyone who touches that file. And the side benefit, it made it easier for me to identify key features as I was working through design development. And then there was my misuse of the split bodies feature. I'd use it to create parts from a master file, and it seemed to work until I went back and edited the parent. Suddenly, my exported parts disappeared, and at first, I didn't even know why. It happened enough times that eventually I hit the breaking point. I had to sit down and actually learn how to use parent and child parts properly. That one shift stopped me from losing days of work and vastly sped up my development cycles. Organization is the difference between SolidWorks working for you or against you. A clean folder structure, consistent file naming, and an organized feature tree might feel boring, but they'll save you hours of frustration and they'll make your work far easier for others to understand. The third big theme was not understanding how relationships worked inside SolidWorks, both at the feature level and in assemblies. I used to design everything in context, directly inside assemblies. It felt efficient until I moved parts around, restructured an assembly, or tried to use a component in a different project. Then everything broke. I'd sit there wondering why half my model had errors, with little idea what I'd done wrong. The same thing happened with parent and child relationships between features. I didn't understand how changes to one sketch could ripple through the rest of the model. One edit could trigger a chain reaction of failures, and I'd waste hours untangling it. The fix wasn't to avoid these tools completely, but to use them with intent. In-context design is powerful, but it comes with hidden dependencies. These days, I avoid it where I can, but when I do use it, I know exactly what relationships I'm creating and how they'll behave if the design changes later. The same applies to parent-child dependencies. Once you understand how they work, you can design with confidence instead of fear. I've personally found that turning on the in-context relationships visualization tools in your feature tree is a huge help, particularly for a learner starting out. And when I look back, all my mistakes fit into these three themes. Not knowing the software deeply enough, which wasted time and limited what I could do. Poor organization, which caused endless rework and confusion. And misusing relationships, which left me with fragile, error-prone models. The good news is that every one of these mistakes was fixable, and the process of fixing them made me a stronger designer. The knowledge gained from fixing my flaws is part of what led me to the SolidWorks certification pathway, to test my skills. So if you're wondering how you could take that same growth further, and whether certifications like CSWA, WP, or even Certified SolidWorks Expert are worth pursuing, I've broken down the entire certification path so you can see exactly what each stage offers. Check it out in this video.